And so I tell the lawyers that we can't go through this lawsuit no more. Because apparently, one of the clones of Stan Lee is mad at us now.
Wait, Stanley has clones?
Well, you know how he appears in like all of his cameo things in all the movies.
Yeah.
Apparently, he knows how to clone himself now.
So wait, those aren't all Stan Lee? I mean, they are, but they aren't?
Yes. No.
Holy shit.
I know.
No wonder why there's so many Marvel movies now.
I know, right?
Stuck in my past, about to relapse. I keep running back to you.
Anyway, though, welcome everyone to What Grinds Our Gears, the podcast, the only podcast ran by the craziest family you can ever experience knowing. Where today it's only three of us, cause three are out, with one being sick, the other one taking care of the sick, and one streaming right now. So we're gonna do what we can right now. Where hosting, of course, is myself, your sex ed doctor of the year, making my own sex ed video for August. V. Then you have the co-host that started all with me. He is Deadpool today, but Wolverine Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and also he's Andy Dufresne Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Give it up for Hubs.
Woo!
And coming,
That was my woo voice.
I know, right? And coming back from her sabbatical from adventures that I'm sure she'll regale us with, is our new person that hosts things with us, of Britt.
Yo, what's up?
We all here.
We all
yeah.
her, except for Schweebs, Phoenix, and Sally. But that's
Well-
okay.
They're with us in spirit.
They're with us in spirit. And at the sexual harassment seminar, but that's another story. Today, we are going over something that was discussed beforehand of 80s movies.
Oh boy.
Woo. Alrighty, yes.
I'd be the resident expert, I suppose.
Yeah, you would, because yep. We already clarified that I only know one-ish.
I know a couple.
Watched one. I've heard names of others, just haven't watched them. Maybe I'm too
Well,
young.
Maybe
I'm too young for this.
this
I can't
episode
handle
will
it.
give you a good list of a watch list for 80s movies that I grew up with.
Then,
Yeah.
Aaron, would you like to kick things off? Because I only know a little bit of a little bit.
Oh god, this was a terrible subject to do this time then, huh?
Like, I know a bunch of 80s movies, but I don't remember them offhand, where it's like, I know them, but I'm like, fuck, what was its name?
Yeah, I'm the same way, sort of. So, I can't pick a favorite 80s movie, because if I had to pick a favorite, there'd be like a list of 20. But the 80s were a weird time for movies, where political correctness was kind of like thrown out the window.
Oh, hell yeah.
And comedy was just comedy. So, like tonight, this whole thing started between a text conversation between me and V about how me and my wife and my son were sitting watching The Burbs, which is a Tom Hanks movie from 1989
Wow.
that has Corey Feldman, Tom Hanks, Carrie Fisher, and a few other actors, obviously. But it's like the first satire horror film where they kind of pick on all the horror tropes. As a matter of fact, in the middle of the movie, you get to see Tom Hanks flipping through channels, and The Exorcist is on one of the channels, and then the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is on another channel. So it's kind of I think one of the first horror trope movies where it kind of picks on the satire of horror films. And it did not do well in the box office.
Why?
I don't know. It just wasn't received well. I mean, it got good reviews. It just didn't do very well. I don't know if it was because of the month it was released or what, but it's one of the classics in my mind. I remember growing up watching it on TV, which was one of the funny things in the movie as you're watching Tom Hanks flipping through. This is 1989, so The Exorcist came out in, 1970-something?
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure that they weren't playing The Exorcist, at the time considered to be one of the scariest horror films ever. People were walking out of the theater vomiting and things like that.
I've seen clips of that movie, and it does not look well, it is entertaining, I guess, but not pleasant. That's the word.
Oh
But-
my god! I
but
know
I-
a lot of 80s movies!
And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they weren't playing that one on cable television at the time.
Oh, I doubt they would.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, probably not either, but maybe he had HBO or something. Who knows? Anyways, that's the movie. That's what started this all. The Burbs. If you haven't seen it and you like Tom Hanks, see it. It's a good movie. I'm not
Tom Hanks.
gonna put it up there with like the, my top. That'd be in the list. See, this is where I get caught up because it's in the list. I think my favorite would have to be either Ghostbusters and most of them are comedies as well.
Right.
But, oh God, there's so many. There's so freaking many. This was like the heyday of action films and comedy.
I know.
What's the director's name that did The Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink and St. Elmo's Fire? John.
Hold on. I think I got his name right here.
Is it Holmes? Oh God, I'm gonna get it wrong.
We'll be right back.
Short break here. Do 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 do. Oh wait, that's Jeopardy. The Breakfast Club.
Ah, yes, that one. What's funny is I've seen most of the from Family Guy, but never really like understood it. You know what's funny is I think one of my favorite movies is it's not an 80s movie, obviously. Not another teen movie, but they make so many 80s references in that movie.
Yes.
That like I still think that movie is freaking hilarious, but I've been told like you need to watch the 80s movies to even understand the reference. I was like, it's a funny movie by itself. So
It's
either
John Hughes.
John Hughes! I just found it myself.
Which, by the way,
John
I
Hughes
believe-
made all the big teen
Yeah.
comedies. Ferris
Yeah, he did.
Bueller's Day Off, Pretty in Pink, The Breakfast Club.
16 Candles.
What's happening, hot stuff?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Somebody figured out though, I think it was Kevin Smith or something, that like they're all connected. So it's like the first movie cinematic universe.
I kind of felt that way when I was watching Pretty in Pink. I was like, so this is probably what led her to detention? Either this or the stuff in 16 Candles?
And of course, the main actress in those movies was Molly Ringwald, right? Or like they called them the Brat Pack, which would be Emilio Estevez, Molly Ringwald, Anthony Michael Hall,
That
do you remember
nerdy
the
guy and that emo-looking lady.
this is basically where like Robert Downey Jr., Anthony Michael Hall, Judd Nelson, they all got their like big breaks through John Hughes movies. Emilio Estevez, all of them.
Shoot, Emilio Estevez's brother Charlie Sheen had a cameo in a pseudo Brat Pack movie from Ferris Bueller. As
He did.
Jeannie's love interest, and
He was the druggie in the police station, which was quite a bit of awesome foreboding from John Hughes, if you ask me.
art imitating life. Oh God, our episodes keep coming back to us.
Winning. You gotta give me some of that Tiger's blood.
But now that I've been looking back at some of the titles that came out in the 80s, I'm just like, the Princess Bride, Labyrinth, Conan the Barbarian,
Gremlins.
Gremlins, Blue Velvet, Empire Strikes Back, the entire Back to the Future trilogy,
Yep.
Escape from New York, Mad Max
Flashdance.
2, Flashdance,
Dirty Dancing,
Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark,
Beetlejuice,
Superman 2,
Police Academy,
Beverly Hills Cop,
Teen Wolf. Let's just keep doing this.
E.T.
This whole
the
episode.
Extraterrestrial,
Pretty in Pink. I think we already said that. Footloose.
Tim Burton's Batman.
Oh, and this is also the era where Michael J. Fox, of course, got his big break, right? with Back to the Future, but he also did The Secret of My Success, Teen Wolf. Stand By Me. There you go. Stephen King movie right there. Stand By Me. That was another great movie that came out.
Keep coming back to us.
Which had River Phoenix and oh shit. Is that Corey Feldman? Yes.
Probably Corey
River Phoenix, Corey Feldman. The Goonies. There's another one, V. The Goonies, The Three Amigos, Revenge of the Nerds, Grease.
Risky Business, The Karate Kid and its sequels.
Mannequin. I mean, God.
Rambo,
You haven't seen any of
First
these movies?
Blood Part 2. Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket, yes.
The Terminator.
Big, E.T.
Die Hard.
Oh, this is terrible. This is Spinal Tap. Tron. Never seen Tron?
I love Tron.
Scarface.
Like, we're giving Britt a whole list of 80s movies, and she's probably
I
just
know.
like,
I'm just like, okay. Let me type this up.
Just write them down. You can watch them. The Lost Boys. That's actually another one of my favorites.
An amazing vampire movie.
I loved it. I loved it because they're the ones. That movie actually kind of broke the trope where garlic and crosses do damage to vampires. In that movie, they did nothing to vampires. The only thing that did anything to vampires was the wooden stake.
If only Sally were here.
And the only reason was because they weren't in their vampire form. So they had two different forms in that movie. They had the human form, which was, sunlight didn't bother it. Garlic didn't bother it. Crosses didn't bother it. They had a reflection. But when they went into their vampire form, that's when it started to hurt them. Anyways. God, there's so many. Hellraiser came out in the 80s. The Shining.
Good.
Willow.
If only Shreves and Phoenix were here.
I know, this is like the heyday of movies, right? This is Top Gun. There's another top one right there. Top Gun's another one.
Shoot.
Oh.
There's just so many good things, but there are a lot of bad things about how they made 80s movies.
There were. I mean, like I said, the PC culture was non-existent. The Breakfast Club breaks so many rules that movie couldn't be made today.
Yeah, like a teacher putting a student in the closet and being like, "You want to go for a round?" Oh,
right.
It's like a first punch.
Right. Or the whole fact, the whole thing is misogynistic, because you have Molly Ringwald starting out in the beginning. She's the little pretty girl. She's the priss. She doesn't get in trouble, right? And she falls in love with John Bender, who is the bully, the bad guy, the kid that beats up kids like Anthony Michael Hall in that movie.
And he also basically tried to eat her out in the detention room.
Right. I mean,
wow.
When you look at it, like, that movie goes against everything that the whole culture of today goes against. It's just, you can't do that today.
They can't do Back to the Future today, because when you think about it, they never explained how Marty and Doc met.
I always thought he was just a family friend.
That's what I assumed, but when I finally thought about it, I was just like, how did they meet? Because this just seems kind of creepy. But the way it inspired Rick and Morty was just like, this is problematic.
Oh, there's a few we left out, B. There's a few major ones we left out. We left out Blade Runner and Aliens.
Oh, Blade Runner. Everyone's still like, is he a replicant or is he not a replicant?
There's you ever seen The Beastmaster? That was another one I watched growing up.
I don't.
The Last Starfighter. How about that one?
Sounds familiar.
So basically, The Last Starfighter is what happens is this teenage boy, and when I say teenage boy, he's probably like 21 in real life, but they're portraying him as a 16-year-old.
You're gonna have to repeat the ninth grade again, Charlie.
Anyways, he's really good at a video game, right? Well, come to find out, that video game was sent here by space aliens to pick the perfect fighter to fight a war in outer space. So he breaks the world record or whatever the hell it is, and they come and abduct him, basically, to fight in their war.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Yeah. I liked the movie. I love movies though. So they're ooh. What the hell is that one? How about Flash Gordon?
Flash.
Ah!
I feel like I should know that, but I don't think I do.
So yeah.
How is it I'm younger than you, Britt, yet I remember 80s movies?
Bill and
know.
Ted.
I grew up with not a lot of movies, honestly. If anything, man, if my husband was awake, he totally could talk about movies, but because he's the
Howard
movie
the
buff.
Duck.
But
Oh
Howard
god,
the Duck.
Howard the Duck.
Predator. I'm just gonna keep doing this throughout the freaking stream.
I'm just like, Howard the
Bill and-
Duck as a Marvel movie was creepy.
Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey and Excellent Adventure.
oh, I've seen
No.
that one. I've seen
Those
that
are-
one.
Tubular.
The Naked Gun. Anybody see The Naked Gun? That's
I remember Naked Gun, but not a lot of Naked Gun.
Pee
I
Wee's
haven't
Big
seen it.
Adventure, RoboCop,
Everybody's
Um,
seen RoboCop at least once.
Weird
Yeah,
Science.
I can say that I've seen
Weird
RoboCop.
Science.
Dun, 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 dun. That's another good one. Big Trouble in Little China.
Ooh.
See, all of these movies are on my list. This is why I don't have like a top 10 list. Or how about Trading Places?
I remember Trading Places because I just recently rewatched on Netflix, and I'm like, yeah, blackface in an 80s movie.
I know
Coming
the
to-
name. I just don't know the show.
Coming to America?
Nope.
No?
I am the
No.
Prince of Zamunda.
Very
Col-
sheltered child.
Poltergeist. There-
yes, I have seen that
Yeah.
one. I even watched the remake.
Ew.
Built their house on
Yeah.
an Indian burial ground. You know, there's an underrated one in here that actually I saw once and then for some reason forgot about, but it was actually, it got terrible reviews. It was totally underrated, but I actually watched it. It's not bad. It's called Fright Night.
I
And they
remember
remade
Fright
that
Night
movie.
a little, where it was
They-
just the neighborhood guy was dating the protagonist's mom, and it was like he hated the kid and wanted to kill him.
Well, he was a vampire or something like that. I don't remember.
Yeah,
They
he couldn't-
remade that
He couldn't
movie.
get into the house unless he was invited.
Right. But they remade that movie with Colin Farrell in the after 2000. I don't and it also did terrible again. So
The Transformers movie, wasn't that in the 80s?
the animated, yes.
I wasn't talking about the Michael
I remember watching the
Bay.
cartoon, just
That's-
not the movie.
There was a movie and it was the same as the cartoon. It was
With
the same voice
Bender
actor, same.
as one of the Autobots.
Yes. And back when Bumblebee was actually a Volkswagen Bug instead of a Camaro.
And I think Orson
Huh?
Welles was in the movie.
I don't know. Ooh, one of my favorite horror film franchises, A Nightmare on Elm Street.
And Child's Play premiered in the 80s.
Child.
I think I saw the 4th remake on that one, or 3rd. I don't remember. It came out like 10 years ago, whatever the remake was. But
Of which one?
the Nightmare on Elm Street,
There's only one remake.
was there?
Yeah.
And that was with the
Oh,
guy.
I'm probably thinking of the spin-offs then, because I know they did like a Jason and Freddy kind of thing.
That's all part of the whole series. Like
Okay.
Freddy versus Jason, the two studios came together and said, okay, now this is both canon, right? But they were all directed by Wes Craven up until Freddy versus Jason. That was the crossover event, and then that's where the two studios. So that one, I guess you could say, would be the one-off. As far as
Rest in
remakes
peace,
go,
Wes Craven, you beautiful bastard.
that's when they made the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street with oh god, what's his name? Something Joseph Haley he played Rorschach in The Watchmen. Plays Freddy in the reboot of A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, okay.
Oh man, I thought Black Christmas was an 80s movie, but no. It's a 70s movie.
Ha! Traitors.
Say anything. So you were talking about Not Another Teen Movie and the basically satirizing all of 80s movies. There's
Yeah.
a scene in there where a guy's standing outside holding a radio above his head.
Yeah.
Right? That is from the movie Say Anything with John Cusack, which, by the way, John and Joan Cusack both got their big starts in the 80s films with John Hughes films and others.
I remember when I saw Joan Cusack in the second Addams Family movie, I was like, if Morticia Addams wasn't around, I would do so many things to Joan Cusack.
Oh my goodness. There's too many. Die Hard,
The first
Field of
action-packed
Dreams.
Christmas movie.
Field of Dreams, Cocktail, Risky Business. My goodness. We can't cover all of them.
Like
Just can't.
we would need like a subcategory of every 80s movies to just be covered. Like, okay, we're doing this week about comedy movies from the 80s
Right.
and how controversial
How
these
about
were.
this one? How about this one, V? Purple Rain.
I see you standing in the purple rain, purple rain, purple rain.
Beautiful.
It's not just an album; it's a movie, and he drives a really sweet ass purple motorcycle.
That's the first thing I thought of too. Was the album.
I was thinking about Prince.
The never-ending story. It is a Prince movie.
Story.
Prince blew up in the '80s after Batman. Another '80s film.
And David Bowie in the 80s did Labyrinth, which had
Yes.
a lot of girls being like, I want to have sex now.
Which
Oh, I've seen that one too. Wow, I know.
Never-
Okay, there's at least
I'm
three
looking for the babe.
movies I have
What
seen.
babe? The babe with power. What power?
I've never seen Labyrinth. I still haven't yet to this day.
Don't. It's not that bad, I guess, but like I mean, I watched it within the past couple months or something just to see what the hype was about. But I could totally understand. I think everyone could understand that. Like, okay, I can see how the '80s girls got all like, whoo, David Bowie, how hot, kind
It's
of thing.
because David
But
Bowie's
watching it
balls
now-
were on display.
Yeah.
It's like attending an ABBA concert. He's got a dildo stuffing in his pants.
It's,
Ew,
it's like you
like-
see him playing with like these crystal balls and just like, yes, Bowie, we see your balls. And there's a third ball, so you had the same medical condition as Markiplier did.
Oh man.
Tom Hanks had a bunch of hits. He had freaking Turner and Hooch, Splash, Dragnet, Bachelor Party,
When
Money,
did Forrest Gump come out again?
in the 90s. I think that was, when did Forrest Gump come out? Like 95 or something? I don't know.
Shit.
I was young. Ooh, Jeff Goldblum and The Fly.
Jeff fucking Goldblum.
This is horrible. I picked a terrible topic. How can we talk about something there's so much of?
Here's how we do it, Aaron. We're gonna break up everything into categories and cover them the same way we do everything. The supernatural stuff or the horror movie stuff. We're breaking it up into categories. Let's do
Okay.
that way.
So, let's make this quick. The easiest way I can describe 80s horror films, summed up so that everybody can get it, whether you're from the 80s or not,
They
watch
did
Stranger
not get
Things.
a fuck.
Watch Stranger Things.
They did not get a fuck. That is the 80s in a nutshell for horror. They did not get
Yeah,
a
they
fuck.
did. There were a lot of movie firsts in horror, 80s horror, like the whole face melting scene. What is that?
Melt him!
What is that from? Is that from Reanimator or is that from something else?
Well, the first face melting I saw was from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
This was before that. He actually invented how to do it. But Raiders of the Lost Ark is a good one too, but that's not a horror film. So basically the guy from Raiders of the Lost Ark was saying he had to create a gelatin that would melt before I can't remember.
Like, it wouldn't be before the
Well, no,
special
okay,
effects
so,
makeup also deteriorated.
so he wanted the flesh to melt first, right?
Yeah.
And then you'd see the under bits a little bit, and then the blood would melt after. So he had to make this gelatin formula that would was sustain a certain temperature long enough for the face to melt and then to melt in blood form afterwards. It was weird how he was talking. It was kind of macabre, but it was fun.
Truly a masterpiece.
City Slickers, is that an 80s film?
Escape from New York was an 80s film.
I love Kurt Russell. Adventures in Babysitting.
You know, I saw that movie recently, and I'm like, what the flying fuck?
Thor is in that movie.
Chris Hemsworth?
No, not that Thor. Oh, what is it? Heathers.
Yeah, oh, Heather.
Christian Slater and Winona. Is it Winona Ryder?
Winona Ryder.
In the first, that was like the first dark comedy
for teens.
Like, it was funny, but like the ending is Winona Ryder murders all these girls, so it was really dark.
Technically, the whole thing was she wanted to bang JD. JD helped her murder one of the Heathers, two of the jocks.
Yep.
And then she tried to make it look like she hung herself, which pissed me off because suicide victim, that's also suicide survivor. And then she had to stop JD from blowing up the school, where he blew himself up. She made out with one of the Heathers and then got together with one of the students that was picked on because she was overweight. But the whole thing, I'm just like, 80s.
That movie is fucked up.
This was stupid, even for your standards. I'll go into more of it when I review the full-blown Heathers movie, not the TV reboot thing that they're trying to do.
That was Christian Slater and Winona Ryder, right?
Yes, Christian Slater. Many
Is
people
JD?
Yeah, he was JD. But a lot of people remember Christian Slater from like the Simpson fans as Hank Scorpio. I don't know why I remembered that. I've been on like a Simpsons binge because I've been super depressed lately.
I gotta take a break. I'll be right back. You two keep talking.
Okay. But, man, 80s movies from all the stuff in general really fucked up. There was no chill. There was nothing really of like, maybe we should slow down. Everything was just up for grabs, especially with Trading Places just throwing out the whole racism, bigotry, and blackface like it was nobody's business. And sodomy of a man getting raped by a gorilla.
I didn't think about it. There were a lot of 80s movies back then were very... had like, I wouldn't really say, maybe not the word standards, but
What standards?
they didn't care. They were like, yeah, we're going to do this. And I was like, whoa, okay. Because anything that would be released, let's say an 80s movie got remade exactly the same way, nowadays people would be so offended or something like that.
I'd only be offended by if they recreated Heathers the same way. I'd be like, yeah. Because it was nice to joke about when I almost tried to hang myself. Yeah. Thanks, movie.
There I am.
But all in all, 80s just did not care.
No, they definitely did not.
When talking about 80s films, you have to throw all the critique rule books out the window. You cannot critique an 80s film. They all were horrible when it comes to like...
But Aaron, I'm set to review Heathers next year.
No, I mean, when I say horrible, I mean, like, if you were to compare Legends of the Fall, which came out in like the 90s, 1995 or something, Brad Pitt's like big breakout role where he became a serious actor, right? And tried to compare it to, let's say, what's a serious film from the 80s? Wall Street.
Yeah.
Starring Charlie Sheen. Starring Charlie Sheen. Yeah.
Then there was stuff of Another 48 Hours with 48 Hours.
Well, but see, now you're mixing genres. I'm trying to keep like drama with drama, right? So like that's why I picked Wall Street. But the headliner in that film is Charlie Sheen. And then you look at Legends of the Fall, it's Brad Pitt. And you look at the two of them together and you say, which one's the better actor? Anybody?
Well, I hate Brad Pitt.
Yes, but he's a good actor. He starred in films like Fight Club. He's,
Interview with a Vampire.
Interview with a Vampire. I mean, I could put Tom Cruise as a good actor next to Brad Pitt, but Charlie Sheen.
Hell, they let Eddie Murphy be the lead actor for multiple movies. They compare that to Michael B. Jordan, who's been in stuff like Fruitvale Station,
Fantastic Four,
Creed, Black Panther.
Creed 2 looks good too, though.
Creed 2 is set to premiere this year. Comparing that to Eddie Murphy. I'm sorry, Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Griffin. I was gonna say, wait, that's 90s. Hold on.
Eddie Murphy compared to Michael B. Jordan as just like lead black actors in the 80s to today.
Yeah, but you gotta also understand that was kind of like Eddie Murphy was, how do I say it? He took over the mantle from like Richard Pryor, right? In the 70s.
Yeah.
So,
and then Dave Chappelle stole that crown like a champ.
But see where the difference was, Eddie Murphy was just as vulgar as Richard Pryor, right?
And Richard Pryor was as vulgar as Red Fox.
Right. But Dave Chappelle wasn't. That was the surprising thing. Dave Chappelle he was the reason he got, I can't say that that's the reason. One of the things that I liked about him was like nobody was off limits, right? He wasn't racist. He was racist to everyone. You know what I mean?
But that's not racism. That's just like equal blows to
everybody.
I know.
But that's the best way I could put it because I don't know how to. He was equally prejudiced to everybody. He picked on himself. He picked on his friends. He picked on white people. He picked on he picked on everybody, which is something that not necessarily Eddie Murphy did. He was just swore a lot and used some off-color jokes. Like he made a joke about him and his brother taking a bath together one time, and Charlie put the army soldier up his butt because it was a submarine going into a cave. And I remember that I don't remember if that's from Delirious or Raw, but that was one of the jokes in the set.
Wow.
So like
thanks, Eddie.
Dave Chappelle was like smart comedy. He was vulgar too, but not as vulgar as Eddie, right? Anyways, back to lead black actors. If you want to do Eddie Murphy, you're comparing to Michael B. Jordan. I wouldn't compare those two. I would compare Dave Chappelle to Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, but they don't have that whole thing of this is lead actor material for just a movie. Because Dave, when he was in movies, it was just either for being a side character, or when he made his own actual first movie, it was to be a pothead.
What are you talking about? Half-Baked was awesome. I love that fucking movie.
I'm not saying it was bad, but I'm just saying Hollywood looked at Eddie to be the lead guy for some stuff where it's like mixed with actual serious topics with comedy.
He had range though.
And
Eddie
then
Murphy.
Comparing that to Michael B. Jordan, who got his start from a teen drama series of Friday Night Lights to them being in actually good films that had some comedy mixed in.
Well, you got to start somewhere.
That same comparison is just like you wouldn't.
Eddie Murphy started on Saturday Night Live.
You wouldn't see Eddie doing the same range that Michael B. Jordan does today because of the leaps and bounds.
I don't know. I guess I'm misunderstanding the comparison, I think.
It's kind of like I know it's not really like the movie segment, but like for the music segment. For the 80s, since it was like the whole big swing up from how rap was becoming like this whole new thing because of how it just started up in the late 70s, bleeding into the 80s with the disco margin, to then move into today stuff. The DJs and people like that of the Furious Five and whatnot, comparing that to the most popular rap group from the known time period of like NWA or the disgusting Migos, that whole thing would just be like the range of how it broke out and actually changed a bigger surface where the stepping stones were nice, but the results were a lot bigger and a lot more polished than what was coming before.
So would you think that Michael B. Jordan had an easier path or a harder path, considering the the range of black actors out there, like Denzel Washington
The way I see it, it's kind of like as a minority of like multiple different ranges from black people all the way to Asian people. I, for one, am just thinking in comparison to where black acting has come, where like with the 80s finally giving leeway but then just still treating it like it's a joke, to where nowadays it's kind of like literally looking for, we want Middle Eastern characters to play this role, we want Asian people to play this role. It's very encouraging to see that people are taking notice to where the footnotes have come to give like a bigger result, to make it an easier pathway for people. But it's still a hard one, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
I do like Eddie Murphy, though. I think...
Like, I love Eddie Murphy, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying in comparison.
Well, let me
I
put
think
it
he
this
was
way.
like the 80s Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
I think he was bigger. I mean,
How dare you?
He came out with a freaking album, a song called "Party All the Time,"
Which got made fun of on In
Yes.
Living Color.
He got made fun of constantly. But regardless,
Eddie, I want your success. I want your career. Except your
Eddie
last 3
Murphy-
albums.
if you look at some of his more recent films, and when I say more recent films, you'll have to go back like a decade or so, because he doesn't make them as frequently as he used to.
Nope.
And more recently, he's actually going back on tour. He wants to go do stand-up again, which I think is awesome.
It'd be
'Cause
wonderful
I
if he
think
did.
He is funny as hell. Raw and Delirious are probably two of my favorite stand-up comic routines, or shows, next to like Robin Williams Live on Broadway and George Carlin, right? But if you look at some of his more recent films, he's got range as an actor. He can do serious and funny, obviously. But there's one, the newest one he did.
I miscalculated, Aaron. I shouldn't have said Michael B. Jordan. I should have said Donald Glover.
All right, okay.
Donald Glover.
But I think Donald Glover isn't done yet.
Yeah, I think he's just getting started.
Right. I think this is just like, because he's been doing this.
No, but he started
very long.
from YouTube to get where he is today.
Right, and he worked on.
And
Really? I
being
didn't
a
know
writer for 30 Rock,
That's it.
was
30
on
Rock.
Community, then got his own 2-3 stand-up specials. Then he started making his big moves with his music as Childish Gambino to then have his
Right.
own show of Atlanta, something Eddie's never really done before.
And not only that, he's a big geek too. When
He is.
When it comes to comics and continuity and things like that, he was set to take on the animated show of Deadpool before it got canceled, and he was supposed to star as Deadpool in the show, and it got canceled because I don't know if it was because he took it too far.
How can you take it too far? It's fucking
well-
Deadpool.
It's animated. It was an animated show.
And Spawn
Right, so
was
it
an
wasn't- it was
animated
something on,
show,
like,
and look how
Nickelodeon.
hardcore that went.
Spawn was a comic book, and
And an
it didn't
animated
go-
show.
And it didn't go as hardcore as the comic book. Even the film didn't go as hardcore as the comic book. And the film,
Well, how can you go super hardcore when they made God an old lady?
and when Spawn kills God, yeah, I get it.
To become the ruler of both heaven and hell, and then
Yes,
just
yeah. So let's
"You know
put that into
what?
context, since
I
we're
really
outside of our 80s realm. Spawn is a comic book character who has not only gone to hell and killed the devil, he has also gone to heaven and killed God. Which basically makes him the omnipotent one.
and we really got out of our depth this time. Let's just roll back down to the 80s real quick. Oh wait, no, this is the 90s. Oh god,
Going
I just saw
too
myself being born again. Okay,
Going
here
too
we go.
deep. Don't go before 84, because I don't want to see that. I don't want to see what happened when I was born.
No, we're in 85 right now. We're good.
Okay. Yay.
Nobody
All right.
knows
Okay,
me.
V. All right. Let's come to the time when I'm going to ask you, what is your favorite 80s movie?
Favorite 80s movie? That's a hard one.
I know. Like I said, I couldn't even make a list because it'd be too damn long.
I've seen so many 80s movies where I'm just like, I have no idea how to rate you. But I will say what my 3 biggest ones I never liked were.
Okay, there we go. Let's go there.
The third one I never really liked for like the longest time. Red Scorpion.
Red Scorpion.
Dolph Lundgren as an action hero, although an appealing idea, he was just awful. The script was terrible. The editing was so choppy it made my eyes hurt. I was like, what are you fucking doing?
Okay, how about I amend that with The Punisher, also starring Dolph Lundgren in the 80s, where he dresses like Duke Nukem and has. I'm dead serious. Have you seen that version of The Punisher?
Not yet. I'm getting there.
Watch it. It is terrible.
Number 2. I have no idea why until I recently rewatched it again, but I hated the first Evil Dead movie so much.
Yeah, the first one wasn't very good.
It was so god-awful.
It was so bad that when they made Evil Dead 2, they didn't just even want to call it just Evil Dead Remake. They just glossed over it all and basically rebooted the Evil Dead series. Evil Dead 2 is actually Evil Dead 1.
I think Evil Dead is just like, was it all a dream, Ash? Was it all just a very, very bad dream?
To be honest, Evil Dead was Sam Raimi? Yeah. That was his and Bruce Campbell's college film experiment.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So that was basically just like a pilot to the real movie?
They had one before it, which was the same premise, right? But it was a short film.
Mm-hmm.
And the professor liked it so much that they introduced it to somebody in Hollywood or some studio or whatever, and it got off the ground and they made the Evil Dead. So that was started out as their college finals project and blossomed. So Sam and Bruce Campbell have been friends since college.
That's interesting. But the number 1 movie I've hated for the longest fucking time, I will never change my mind about this, and that's why I'm set to review it next year, is Heathers.
Honestly, can't say I have seen the whole movie, but I think I have another one that I wish I could remember the name of. I've been trying to remember the name of it since we brought up Heathers the first time. And all I can remember, they made a video game out of it, and it was on, I don't know if it was on Steam or what, but it was free. But the movie's basis is, it's weird. Like, what I can remember, some rich dude walking down the suburban streets somewhere, and he pulls out a gun and he just starts shooting people.
I know what movie you're talking about, but I have no idea what the name is.
I can't remember the name of it. They made it into a game. I think it was like Trash Man or... God, I can't remember now.
We'll think about it some more. But Britt, this the point of the time where, since you were here for most of the learning experience, what did you learn about the 80s movies this week?
I learned that the 80s were apparently terrible.
No, they were awesome.
It's just that the movies were iffy.
Yeah.
The movies were great too, but they're more as like a retrospect.
First time, so. But as far as I know, it seems like the movies that came out in the 80s definitely set like a concrete, basically a future for future movies. And then of course there's the remakes too. So.
They just laid down so many, what we now call stereotypes in movies. That's like where the whole, like, something I discovered since Deadpool 2 came out, fridging. I didn't know what that was. Basically where the whole plot derives from you killing a female character important to the main character so that the plot can move forward, right? Yeah. So in Deadpool 2, it was killing Vanessa. The 80s started that. Like, you take Lethal Weapon. What was Riggs' reason to go on living? The fucking bad guys killed his girlfriend wearing his varsity jacket or whatever the hell it was. Fucking drown her in the drink.
Oh yeah, the second movie where it was with the diplomatic immunities person.
Yep. They killed his girlfriend to advance the plot. So like that whole thing, And I still, I get killing off a character to advance the plot. I did not realize how swayed it was towards female characters and how it was a thing.
Yeah.
I guess maybe because I grew up with all these movies and did not, it's something I didn't notice or pay attention to, because it's like a culture. When you grow up in a culture, you don't realize something's weird until you actually go outside of that culture and view a different one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you go to a different culture and you see their culture is weird because you've never experienced that before, right? So it never affected me because maybe I didn't realize it was happening because I grew up inside that culture, right? Anyways, getting a little existential.
So that's what you took from this, Britt, that the 80s were...
It definitely was a time that no one really cared about certain censorship, but it definitely, I would say just like what he was saying, it really did create the stereotype for people nowadays. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, though. I think it gives more people more open-minded about certain things here and there, or what could possibly happen or what can't possibly happen.
That I think also we could, maybe go back to the 80s. Look back at the 80s, because like we said, Breakfast Club probably wouldn't be made today, right?
No.
Because of all the stereotypes in it, right?
No, they wouldn't have made it because of all the shit that Bender was doing in school, like bringing a knife to school, having the guillotine in his locker.
Or Weird Science, for that matter. Two geeky nerds in high school create a hot woman from their computer.
They can do that, but that's because Pygmalion the Myth did that first.
Ultimately for her to become their sex slave, right? That was why they created
Pygmalion.
Right?
He was a guy that wanted to have a wife because he didn't want to have them talk or have sex with them. He was just like, I want to make a hot wife. And then Aphrodite was just like, I can make her live for you. He was like, really? And she's like, yeah. And then she brought her to life, and now it's just like, yeah, now you guys can talk and have sex. Have fun with it.
Right, but what I'm getting at is, like, I love all those movies. Not because of the stereotypes that they created. Because I thought I enjoyed the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I watched Weird Science, I wasn't thinking, oh, two guys are making a sex doll. You know what I mean?
That's because we weren't thinking about that back in the day. We're just like,
I know,
two nerds trying to be funny.
Right, but you can't do that today. You actually have to be conscious of what you're filming, right? It's not art anymore.
Yeah.
You can't even have someone try to play the role of a transgender person without someone being like, you can't get a transgender actress for this movie.
Talking about Scarlett Johansson and the most she dropped out of. Yeah.
Or you have people being like, how come this original character that was white wasn't Asian American?
Yeah, Iron Fist. Yes, I remember that topic.
Yeah.
Because he was always white in the comics. That's the way that he was. Anyways, not going back in that. All I'm saying is maybe we've gotten a little bit our asses are a little bit too tight nowadays.
That's why I brought those examples, though, Aaron, because people have gotten too ass hurt.
Even if you watched the original Ghostbusters, there were some things in there that are not acceptable today.
No, especially the ghost blowjobs.
Right? That's what I'm saying. And if you've watched the remake of the Ghostbusters film, which, by the way, me and Jenny endorse, we laughed our asses off.
It's not a bad movie.
It's a great movie. They did a great job with the female cast. They did awesome. I loved it.
I just wish they didn't say it was a reboot. Instead, they were just like...
They could have made it a sequel.
Like,
I mean, hell, they had the setup. They had
like
Leslie
maybe
Jones.
Kristen Wiig was like the daughter of Egon, since Egon passed away.
Leslie Jones was the daughter of Ernie from the original.
It would have been easy to just write it like that. Just don't make it a reboot.
I know, right? Just say this is the next step. Don't reboot it. This is the next step.
That was my only issue. I was just like, it's a good movie, but
they could have done it. They could have done it like God of War, the game. They called it God of War, the reboot, But it wasn't really. It still picked up where Kratos left off. It just picked him up in a different part of time, right?
His continuity from the Greek pantheon was still there, and he was still seen as a god, since he still had the title of God of War. But he killed Zeus, and Zeus was in Helheim, and they tied it all together greatly. They could have done the same thing with Ghostbusters, is all I'm saying. And look at all the good things that came up because of the 80s. Everyone's just like, I wonder how the writers of Rick and Morty made this idea.
Well,
Back to the Future.
Yeah, Doc and Marty. Bitches. Rick and Morty is like the rated R version of Back to the Future, wouldn't you say?
Damn it,
Yeah,
Marty!
it definitely is.
I keep trying to tell you. Yo.
Like, if Doc really didn't give a fuck, that would be Rick. That would... I'm gonna clone myself, Morty. Why? Just 'cause it makes life easier.
Oh, jeez, Rick. Do you really think it's a smart idea? You know what, Morty? I think you really starting to become a big pain in my ass there.
Yeah, but I do love how it seems like a lot of the animated shows, like Rick and Morty,
Thundercats, He-Man.
No, I'm talking about now, today's. Like, they're picking the animated shows today are kind of picking up where the 80s left off with the whole PC culture going out the window bullshit.
And
yes.
Yeah.
When did Akira come out again?
Akira is a Japanese film, and they've always been 10 years ahead of us.
But when did it come out again?
1980 something.
So
that is a film we didn't even mention. Akira is on the list.
The gateway drug for people in the 80s to what is this new form of animation, which has been highlighted every fucking where. The bike scene from Akira was even referenced in the latest interpretation of Adventure Time.
Yes.
Well, it's because this 80s movie apparently came out in 1989. On Christmas. Wow.
Huh.
Which one?
Akira.
Oh.
I just Googled it.
It says release date July 16, 1988. So that's probably in Japan.
That's
yeah. That one's probably in Japan. The one that came in the US is on Christmas.
Yeah. Which, by the way, that was my gateway drug to anime. That was the first anime I ever watched. And boy, was I blown away at the age of whatever, I can't remember now.
Tetsuya Kaneda.
Never seen this movie, but I'm seeing these screenshots on here, and I've recognized this one. People were talking about how the animation was ahead of its time. It really was.
The whole movie.
It was just...
It
the subject
was
matter.
a marvel.
That movie...
As much as I shit on Akira at times, it's a great film.
It is. The plot is great. The storyline is great. They don't just fill you... They give you backstory for both characters. They give you backstory and going forward. So the two main characters in the film are kind of polar opposites.
Okay.
One has mental issues because he has abilities.
The other is normal.
So yes, the other is normal. And is he part of the biker gang, or is he like
part of the biker gang, sort of?
But they're defending Neo Tokyo, right? It's not like they're going through fucking... I am gonna have to watch it again. And he's the good soul, right? So you have the good guy on the left who's had a rough upbringing, and then you have someone who wants to be a good guy on the right, being... Is it Tetsuo?
Tetsuo, I think, was the one with the cape.
But he has the powers.
He's got the power!
He's the one that absorbs Akira, right?
Yeah...
He had a rough upbringing, but it was entirely different from Kaneda's.
You know
so
what?
That's where they connect. They're like brothers, and Kaneda was always trying to protect Tetsuo.
You know what? This actually does remind me. Before we do whatever for the rest of the conversation, I want to point this out to everybody that's listening, watching, whatever. For the 100th episode for What Grinds Our Gears, should we do a riff of Akira? Like, I would love to do it. I'd love to riff any kind of movie of Akira, Heathers, or some Hayao Miyazaki movie, or some Michael Bay film, whatever.
Michael Bay film. We'll just have explosions on the screen. Explosions and machine parts flying every which way. And then at the end, we'll just leave a spinning top. That wasn't Michael Bay. That was Christopher Nolan. But
it is like,
yeah.
was it all a dream?
Exactly.
Was any of this real? Did this booze come out of nowhere?
Next time on What Grinds Our Gears, 90s movies. Shit. Well, you have the rest of the Chucky series. You have Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Ew. And you know what else we have from the 90s, though, Aaron?
Legends of the Fall.
Actually, there was something else that came from the 90s.
Dragon Ball.
Something else.
But Dragon Ball, I think, actually started in the 80s, but came here in the 90s.
Yeah, it actually did start in the 80s in Japan, but just came to America just like, here, guys, have like our leftover splooge.
God of War started in the 90s.
Did it?
It did, didn't it? On the PlayStation 2? Didn't it start on the... Oh shit, am I that old? I don't remember how old my consoles are anymore.
What is this?